As we have seen earlier in this module, we have addressed two components of the entire appraisal process when you are looking at housing loans. The first was credit, and that's where you look at the individual or the individuals who have applied for a loan. And then we've looked at legal, which looks at the legal title, the clearance of the security, and the ownership sequence, which decides that the person who is taking a loan has a free and clear title and is therefore able to mortgage the property to you as a lender. We are now going to talk about the third component of this trinity, which is the technical piece. There is a significant amount of work that needs to be done by the technical person and the technical appraiser so that the process of appraising the whole property and its application for a loan and all that is complete. So before we get to it, let's look at why is it important both for a lender and for a customer to do a technical appraisal on a property. So let's understand first of all, why are we doing technical at all? The prime reason is that it is the primary security. The property that you are funding has to be technically sound, technically acceptable, and therefore it is important that you do a technical appraisal. The second reason is that you have to ensure that whatever valuation you do on the property, whatever value you put on the property is in compliance with any regulatory requirements. A limit on the loan to cost ratio. For example, looking at the loan to cost ratio, there are limitations that the RBI and the NHB put on HFCs and what percentage can they give. Now that depends on the valuation. The third important reason why you do technical and why technical is important is it helps to mitigate risk. Because if the property value is not in commensurate with what you are giving a loan for, it's possible that your loan might become unsecured. The fourth reason why you do technical is because it helps you to take a final decision on the loan amount, assuming that the individual is capable of servicing the loan which you have decided at the credit stage. So why do we do technical appraisal? The first reason we do technical appraisal is to determine the quality of the construction. In very simple terms, will the building last for 10, 15, 20 years at least, especially old buildings, maybe some of the newer buildings. The second is to ensure that the appraised value or the market value of the property is as what is claimed by the loan applicant while making the loan application itself. The third is to confirm that the construction permission required from the local appropriate authorities has been obtained. And the fourth, which is connected to the third, is whether the actual construction is happening as per the permissions and the approvals that have been received. So for example, in a city like Bombay, you have to leave a certain distance from a seashore. Has that permission been done and has that construction happened accordingly? Then if you are close to the airport, there is an air funnel which you do not go above a particular height. Again, the same rule applies. Has the permission from the local authorities as far as that aviation is concerned has been received, and if the construction is in line with that permission. The fifth and final reason why you do technical is because it also confirms the ownership of the property. Is the property owned by the person who is applying for a loan? Has the approvals come in his name? And all those kind of tick marks, if I can say, which actually confirm that the transaction is genuine and bona fide. So let us try and understand diagrammatically what are the different aspects that go into technical appraisal. What are the reasons we do it and what is it that we check? The first one I would put down as valuation or estimating the actual market price of the property. Because don't forget, that is the number you will use to determine the loan to cost ratio or the loan to value ratio, which has regulatory implications, security implications also. You then also look at the progress in the work. Has the building progressed? Is there material on site? From the last time you went there, has there been work progress that warrants a further disbursement in the loan? Of course, one of the first things you will do is to check approvals. Local authority, municipality, Zilla Parishad, Gram Panchayat, whatever it might be, there are certain approvals you require. Whether it is environmental, whether it is aviation, whether it is any other pollution, for example, might be an important one from a developer perspective. So you need to check the approvals. The other reason why you do technical is to make sure that the cost estimates make acceptable, logical sense. Is the estimate that the person has put for completing his house or doing some interior work, is the cost that he has estimated, are they in line with normal market acceptable, and the quality of the construction, of course. So if somebody is putting marble as against tiles, the cost will go up. But is it going up reasonably or is it going up disproportionately? If it's a first-time developer, then you also want to check on the developer itself, his reputation, because after all, him completing the project and handing it over to the individual who's applying for a loan becomes extremely important to make sure that the customer is a satisfied homeowner rather than a dissatisfied part home, incomplete house owner. The quality of construction is the next big aspect of technical appraisal. Quality will include the use of material, the strength of the foundation, the load-bearing structures, the quality of cement that is being used, because this building not has to stand during the period that your loan is being repaid as a lender, but equally it must last beyond that. And of course, whether the estimates that he has given are okay. Now, you might think that this is purely lender driven, but I think as a buyer of a property, all these aspects that we have on the screen become important. You want to disburse and pay the builder only if there is progress of work. You want to make sure that the cost estimates given by the architect or the engineer who's constructing the house for you are valid and acceptable. You want to make sure that the quality of the construction is good. You want to make sure that the approvals required by the developer to complete the project or to build the project along certain size and height and length and number of flats is adequate. And the last important one is that if you are buying from a developer, the validation by an acceptable lending institution that the builder is an acceptable, reputable person and not a fly-by-night operator makes importance for you also. Therefore, all these aspects of technical valuation, of course, are important from a lender's perspective, but equally important if you are a person who's buying a property and applying for a loan.